Hey y'all, it's me, Katie. I wanted to come on here real quick and talk about brushes for beginners. So hopefully this is going to be a really short video. I know how I am with making them really long. So I have about 500,000 brushes. I don't need most of them because most of them are multiples of the same brush. I just have that many because I am super lazy and I don't like to wash my brushes all the time. So I have multiple so I don't have to do that. But I wanted to come on here and talk about the brushes that I consistently use in my makeup routine to help me get any kind of look that I want. And without any further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. First, I'm going to start with a foundation brush. This is the Morphe Y6. I believe I've said in a previous video that they have discontinued the Y6, but they have replaced it, basically the same thing, with the Morphe M6. This is just a flat top kabuki brush. I really love this brush for foundation. It has a lot of bristles, and so this doesn't leave a lot of streaks in my makeup. So I use this for liquid foundation and stick foundation, and it does really well with that. It just spreads it all over the face and leaves a really flawless finish and gives me lots of coverage. Next thing is the sponge, and so this isn't technically a brush, but I did want to include it because I think it's a really important tool. I love this sponge. I believe I know it's a Morphe sponge for a fact, but I think it's the highlight and contour sponge, I'm pretty sure. But I really love this because this end really helps me with my concealer. I love blending it out. I will blend out concealer with a brush sometimes, but I hate it. I feel like it just looks awful. I always love using a sponge with this, and I really like this end because it also helps me contour. I'll dip into some like loose setting powder and I will go under my contour to clean it up a good bit. This is just a very good dual purpose sponge. So after I go in with my sponge, I like to go into a loose setting powder again and set my eyelid, and I really love this brush for it. It picks up a lot of product and it lays it down so perfectly. This is a Real Techniques. I believe it's the setting brush. The name has worn off. Also, if you don't want to use a sponge to set your under eye, this is a great one as well. And so after I've set my under eye, whether it's with the sponge or my eyelid with the Real Techniques setting brush, I like to set my entire face with a bigger fluffy brush. And so this is a Flower Beauty brush. It doesn't have a number on it, but it's just a really nice big fluffy brush. Swirl it around with some powder and just kind of go like this all over your face, and it just sets it beautifully. This brush also helps with wiping away baking after you're done with that. After that, I like to go in with a bronzer brush. I randomly decided to go on bhcosmetics.com because I knew they had brushes, but I didn't know what kind of brushes that they had because some websites only have a few. But this is my all-time favorite bronzer brush, and it is dirt cheap. It's the BH Cosmetics #1 brush. I believe I got this in a set because there are several BH Cosmetics #1 brushes, but this, I forget what the set is called. This just has a rose gold finish to this part, and then it has a black handle. What I really love about this brush is that it's fluffy, but it still has this point to it, which I really love, especially when I'm in a hurry. Because when I'm in a hurry, what I do is I just dip into my bronzer really quick, hit this on my face really hard, and use the fluffiness of it. And then if I don't want to take the time to get a contour brush and contour, I'll just use the very tip of this, dip it into my contour shade, and very lightly contour with this. And I love it because I can do that because it has that pointed tip. And this just spreads the bronzer on perfectly. I've gotten so many compliments on my bronzer since I started using this brush. If I do want to take the time to really contour my cheeks out, I love this brush. This is my all-time favorite contour brush. This is the BH Cosmetics #4 brush. Again, this was from a set, so there are several BH Cosmetics #4 brushes, but this one has the white handle and then the gold accent. I love this brush because it's really fluffy, but it does have that point to it for precision, which is really nice for underneath my cheekbone to contour. After contour, I like to go in with my blush, and this is the Morphe E4 brush. I love it because it's got that slant and a hair on it. It's got a slant to it, and so when I dip my brush into my blush, I can really sweep up with the shape, and it goes along with my cheekbone. Because I do start a little bit on the apple of my cheek, but then I end up sweeping it up onto my cheekbone, and it just looks so natural and so nice, and it's so perfect with this brush. For highlight, I like to go in with the Morphe M510 brush, and this is just like, it looks like a big eyeshadow brush to blend, but because it's so fluffy and round and nice, it's going to blend your highlight into your skin flawlessly, and it's going to look so good. I don't get a harsh streak on here like I would with a couple of other brushes that may be a little bit more stiff. Because this is so fluffy, this is going to look so good and so natural on the skin. So now we're done with the face brushes and we're going to move on to the eye brushes. The first brush that I usually go in with is going to be a big fluffy brush. This is the Morphe M441 brush. This brush is really, really nice to just dip into a transition shade and put it all in your crease. It's going to spread it out beautifully and it's just going to fluff it into the crease very well. This is a natural hair brush. So how you can most of the time tell the difference between a natural hair brush and a synthetic brush is this one is white, and so most of the time that means that they are natural. Now with it being natural, that means that it's going to take a little bit more to build up a color in the crease, and sometimes you might like that and sometimes you might want to go ahead and hit your crease hard with the color straight on. So for that I would do the Morphe, I think it's the E23. It's kind of gotten rubbed off, but as you can see, this one is still really, really fluffy, but this is a synthetic brush. So when I dip into that color, it's going to deposit all the color onto my eyelid really quickly. And so sometimes I like that and sometimes that's what I'm going for. So I use this brush a lot. So after I've used a big fluffy brush to put a color into my crease, a lot of the times I like to define my crease a little bit more. So I'll take a brush that's still fluffy and still very soft, but just a little bit more concentrated. It's just a little bit more pointed, and I'll just dip into maybe a darker color, maybe a color, you know, 1, 2, maybe 3 shades darker than my transition, and I'll really, really define my crease with this. And this one is perfect. This is a BH Cosmetics number 6 brush, and again, this is from the same set as my bronzer brush. So it has the black handle with the rose gold accent on it. So after I've gone in with my first 2 brushes with my transition shades, a lot of the times I like to put a shimmer on the lid. So the brush I use for that is the Morphe M124 brush. This is a synthetic brush. It's just a little packing brush, and oftentimes I'll wet this and then I'll dip into my shimmer shade and just pack that onto the lid. And this brush is perfect for it because it's small but deposits shimmers very well. So I really, really like this one for shimmers. For the most part, I'm not a huge fan of liquid liner, not for everyday use. Now, if I decide I want to go hard, you know you'll catch me with that liquid eyeliner pen doing that wing. But like I said, for the most part, I'm not into that. And a lot of times I'm in a hurry because I woke up super late because I love sleep too much. So on days that I've slept in and I don't have time to do real eyeliner, but I still want to define the lash line, I'll use the Morphe M432 brush. It's just a flat definer brush. I will dip it into maybe a black shade, maybe a dark brown shade, and I will just define my lash line with it. So I'll go in like this on the outer portion of my eye, and then when I get towards the inner, I'll go from under and just really, really pack it onto my lash line. And this works really, really great if you don't have time for liquid liner or you don't even like the look of liquid liner. Also, this is a good brush to define your lower lash line if you're doing like a smoky eye. This is good for the dark shade, and then when you go out later, you'll blend that dark shade on your lower lash line with the brush I'm talking about next. My favorite brush to blend out any color on my lower lash line is the Morphe E17. It's really fluffy, but it's really short and dense, so it deposits color well, but it also blends it out well. So a lot of the times if I'm doing a smoky eye or something dark on the lower lash line, I will have gone in with that definer brush that I talked about last, put maybe a black right there, and then I'll go in with a dark brown and just blend out that black with this, and this does it beautifully. This brush is also good if you want to pack color onto the outer third of your eyelid. A lot of the times when I'm doing a smoky eye, I like to go in with black on the outer portion of my lid, and I'll just sit there and I'll stamp on the outer corner, and this does it really, really well, and you can also wiggle it a little bit to blend it out. Lastly, I want to talk about an eyebrow brush. Most of the time, especially when I'm using a pencil, I'll just use a spoolie on the end to brush through my eyebrows, or I will use a brush that has a spoolie on the end and then an angled brush on the end just to fill it in. This is an example of a brush with a spoolie on the end and then an angled brush on the other end, and this is the Morphe E29. I really like to go in and start with this brush. I like to use the spoolie to comb through my brows and then use this end to just kind of lightly fill in my brows. But the star of the show for me, and what always makes my eyebrows look so good, is this. It's a MAC 266 brush. I don't know technically what it was for. It may have been for a winged liner or something like that, but actually I love this for brows. It just really gives me like a nice crisp line even with powder. A lot of the times with powder it's harder to get a nice crisp line. It kind of fluffs out a little bit and makes your eyebrow look really fluffy. I do love fluffy brows, not on me though, so I like to go in with this brush and really define, and I love it for that. Alright, so that's it for this video. I briefly went over a few brushes that I really love, and by few I mean 15 that I use daily. By no means you have to go out and buy these 15 brushes. Just pick a few brushes that you want and then build. That's definitely what I did. I think I started out with maybe a foundation brush and a couple of eyeshadow brushes, fluffy eyeshadow brushes, and that was it, and I just kind of built. All of these are relatively cheap, or you can go online and buy them in a set. BH Cosmetics has a bunch of sets that are really, really great. Morphe has some sets that are really, really great. Or you can go online and buy them individually over time. That's what I actually ended up doing. And so that's why my brush collection is like ginormous and way too much and unnecessary. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe already. And also, y'all, please leave comments for what you want to see. I have a couple of ideas. It's going to take me a little while to film, so I want to have ideas of smaller videos that I could do kind of throughout the week. I'm kind of hoping to upload at least twice a week. Maybe like a Wednesday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Sunday schedule. I haven't decided yet. Just depends on my work schedule. I really appreciate y'all watching, and I hope that y'all have a great day. Okay, I keep slapping my thunder thighs. Let's try it one more time. Why are outros so hard?